Steve here. It's the show where I answer your questions, and this week my first question comes from Johnny the Wolf. Steve, what do you think of Laci Green's recent reaching out to anti-feminists and engaging in respectability politics? Yeah, might as well start here. I mean, fuck it. By the way, anyone who wants a really great response to the Laci Green situation, check out Captain Andy's video. He made a video about it a couple of days ago called Laci Green, You Fucking Liberal, I think is the title. And it's a little long. It's about 25 minutes or so, but it's well worth the time if you have it. And Andy basically says everything that I would have said, only much more articulately than I could have said it had I decided to make my own standalone video on this subject. So check out Captain Andy's video first and foremost. My thoughts are, at best, she is being incredibly naive and foolish in reaching out to anti-feminists and thinking that there is anything productive to be gained by giving these people a platform on her channel, by trying to have productive civil conversations with people who are fundamentally uncivil and not interested in engaging in good faith and not interested in being respectful or pushing any sort of discourse forward that would be mutually beneficial or beneficial to feminism or women. I think they have well-documented histories that demonstrate this. They are not trustworthy people. They're not good people. They're scumbags. All of them. All of the people. And that's my main question. My main question is, who's she going to talk to? Because she said in the video, oh, I'm only going to talk to people that are respectful and that are interested in having a serious dialogue. Well, who's that? Because I know the people that she has actually been talking to, and they don't meet that standard. She apparently thinks they do because they've been nice to her, but all of the people that she has been interacting with are scumbag, misogynist rape apologists that have histories of inciting harassment against people, of pushing fucking false rape panic and other forms of rape culture, of being open, blatant, abusive misogynists. Why someone who has spent her entire YouTube career and her entire career period as a sex educator and promoting feminism and women's empowerment and women's rights would be interested in giving a platform, let alone any amount of her time, to fucking professional public rape apologists is utterly beyond me. I admit I am completely baffled by it. I have no idea what she could be thinking. She is either incredibly foolish and naive, or she is being incredibly calculating and cynical and opportunistic and is looking to raise her own profile and improve her own fortunes by tapping into this toxic fucking audience that people like the people that she has been courting and hanging out with are able to command. The whole thing is incredibly disappointing and disgusting and reprehensible and inexcusable for someone in her position with her history and her background, knowing what she knows about abuse of women, knowing what she knows about online harassment, to turn her back on all of the people who have suffered through those things and to reach out an olive branch and to make friends and to invite fucking scum onto her channel in the guise of, oh, we're gonna have a respectful conversation. Please name me somebody. Name me one person that meets her stated criteria of someone who has a history that would cause you to reasonably assume that they would be interested in having a productive, respectful conversation. Her standard is, that's her stated standard. Her actual standard appears to be, well, if I Skyped with them and they were nice to me, then I guess they're cool. It's fucking bullshit. It's disgusting and disappointing, and she should be fucking ashamed of herself. That's what I think of it. Corey Donaldson, what's your thoughts on men and women who prefer the term non-binary instead of male or female? And what about hatred towards non-binary persons? Well, I suppose technically speaking, people who prefer non-binary would not be men or women. I guess isn't that correct? I have no problem with it at all, and I'm flummoxed by the notion that anybody has a problem with it. To take it back to the kind of scumbag motherfuckers I was talking about in the previous question, the kind of people that Laci Green wants to make friends with, these are why anybody would have any objection or have anything to say at all about how someone identifies themselves in terms of their gender identity is utterly beyond me. even if you personally don't understand it, even if you are not interested, you don't have the level of empathy or patience or sensitivity or whatever to make an effort to understand why a person is non-binary as opposed to male or female, why do you fucking care? If you don't care enough to figure it out and try to understand it, then why do you care enough to try to silence someone or shut someone up or shame someone into not using that label or not calling themselves such a thing or not living in that way? No, people who have a problem with non-binary people can go fuck themselves. If you have a problem with it to the extent that you feel like you need to reach out to them and let them know that you don't approve of them or you think that they're doing something wrong, well, fuck you. You can tell I'm in a mood. The Laci Green shit's got me in a mood. I got back in that headspace because something even worse happened this week in terms of the YouTube, social justice community. Something way even worse than the Laci Green thing happened. To make the Laci Green thing seem almost quaint by comparison. So I had to get back into that headspace of being pissed off about Laci Green. And now that I am, I'm kind of stuck there. So I hope you'll all bear with me. But yeah, Corey, people who have shitty things to say about non-binary people can go fuck themselves. Troubleshooter 125, alternative facts, Bowling Green massacre, cruise missiles to Iraq, Obama bugged my phones, Comey was doing a bad job. No, Steve, this isn't another what will it take to impeach Trump question. It's more like, has the American public so devolved that they cannot see the stupidity and ineptitude that is right in front of them? I don't know if it's so much that as it is the people who fall into that category, the people who are blinded by their own political allegiances, or the people that are sometimes called low information voters. Like, those folks have been incredibly energized and empowered by the Trump campaign now administration. And that has not been good for anybody. When people who can, all the shit that Donald Trump does, he does right in front of everybody. And if he does something in the shadows and someone finds out about it, he'll admit to it in a couple of days anyway. Even though his staff will try to cover his ass and say, oh no, actually, it's not what you think, blah, 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 blah. There was somebody who tweeted something a couple of days ago that I thought summed it up perfectly, where there'll be like a hypothetical news report. Oh, President Trump shat himself on the golf course. And then the response from the White House is, President Trump would never shit himself. And then President Trump will respond like a few days after that with, I shat myself on purpose. And when you have that kind of a person, and there are still enough people looking at him going, well, I don't see the problem. It's not that those people have never existed. And it's not that there are more of those people now in terms of a percentage of the population than there were before. It's just that they just have a lot more power and they're taking up a lot more space in our discourse than they ever used to. And that's the problem, is that for some reason we're listening to these people and inviting them up and saying, well, let's hear more from you. Instead of going, oh, can someone who knows what they're talking about please talk for a while? Does anybody have a relevant, intelligent question to ask? Instead of doing that, we hear the Trump people who are just vomiting support for whatever the guy does. And we're saying, oh, let's hear them out. Let's hear more let's hear more of what they have to say. I think that is more the problem than the public in general has become, more blind than usual to the antics of someone like Trump. Phil James, is apathy a morally neutral position? I'm interested in your position on this. You seem to care about a huge variety of issues, which is commendable. However, many people don't extend their apathy beyond a small number of close friends and family. If none of those people were, for example, gay, then I don't think it is immoral for said person to be apathetic about LGBT rights. As you said, it's not practical. Everybody can't care about everything. You have to prioritize, and people understandably prioritize according to what they see around them. So if you have someone who is close to you who is gay or trans, and you learn of the plight of gay people or trans people through that person, then it's understandable that you'll come to care a lot more about those issues. So I don't think that apathy, in the sense of having priorities and caring mostly about a small handful of issues and not spending a lot of time focusing on other issues, means that you're a bad person or means that you've done something wrong. But I do think that if you use your personal lack of interest in a given subject, in a given cause, as fuel to denounce it or to speak out against people who do care about it, then I think that you can say that apathy has been the basis for you doing something wrong. If you happen to be much more interested in trans equality than the plight of undocumented immigrants, that's fine. You probably have reasons for that in your personal life, why you've chosen to focus on this rather than that. But just because you've chosen to focus on trans equality, for example, that doesn't mean that you have to look sideways at people who are focusing instead on undocumented immigrants or some other human rights issue. There are plenty of worthy causes to go around. Nobody can care equally about all of them. It's okay if you only focus on one or two that happen to connect personally to you. But I don't think that your apathy should make you feel like you have a license to denigrate people who are focusing in other areas. And sometimes I think that happens. Captain Andy, do you think it's perhaps time someone in mainstream media did a proper expose on YouTube and it's allowing thoroughly horrible people to make money via their platform? I don't just mean exposés of individual channels, e.g. the recent Daddy of Five drama, but of YouTube itself, which I feel has a responsibility to enforce its own terms of service and not allow and encourage people to become professional pieces of shit. Boy, you said it, Captain. See, I told you Andy puts my own thoughts into much better words than I can. Yeah, I agree completely. And unfortunately, I think it probably will take something like that. It will take a major media outlet doing a story not about any particular shitty YouTuber, but about the problem of YouTube allowing people to be grossly publicly shitty on its platform and continuing to host them. You know, I mentioned in my Laci Green answer, or in the answer, I guess it was in the answer after the Laci Green answer, one of the earlier ones when I was a little more pissed off, that something even worse than Laci Green, you know, turning to the dark side, so to speak, happened on YouTube this week, and that, of course, was the awful tragedy involving the skeptic feminist, where a woman was killed in the most awful situation. And I mean, just it breaks my heart to think about it, because I knew all three members of the skeptic feminist, and it's just an awful situation all around. And the day that the news broke, people held a live stream on YouTube, basically throwing a party and laughing at it and saying, "Ha ha, a feminist got killed." Why that sort of content is allowed to exist on YouTube, why the people who participate in that content are allowed to remain on YouTube, is completely beyond me. I have no idea what purpose that serves, other than, as you said in your question, allowing and encouraging people to become professional pieces of shit. The problem of online harassment, of empowering white supremacists, including actual neo-Nazis on social media, that problem will not be solved by giving people more flexibility and more options in who they can block and mute. That can help a little in terms of improving your personal experience. But that problem itself will not be solved until YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc. decide, you know what, we're not going to host these people anymore. Somebody is going to have to shame YouTube and Twitter and Facebook into actually taking effective action. And as you say, enforcing their own goddamn terms of service. Because if they actually did enforce their terms of service and their community guidelines, none of those people would be here. They would be gone. They would have been gone years ago, and they should have been. Cranes, not skyhooks. Steve, how did Rodney, president for Hagerstonians for Tea Party Patriotism, react to Von Clownstick winning the White House? Have you talked to that racist POS in a while? I actually haven't talked to Rodney for a while. I just stopped answering his calls. It just got to be too much for me, and I decided it was better just to no longer engage with Rodney. But he has been leaving me voicemails lately, and I guess if you want, I'll play you one of those.
Hey man, it's Rodney, calling you again. Don't know why the fuck you ain't picking up the phone, but I just wanted to give you my regular reminder that we won, motherfucker. Trump's our man, he's our president, and he ain't going nowhere. You might as well just learn to live with it, buddy. Because they ain't never gonna impeach his ass. You know that them Republicans ain't never gonna impeach his ass. That's the reason they voted for him in the first place, all this shit he's doing. They ain't never gonna prove nothing about this Russia shit. He went on fucking national TV and talked about how he used to feel up women's titties and grab them by the pussy. They didn't do shit to him. You really think they're going to get rid of him because of some fucking Russia shit that you ain't even got no proof for? Keep dreaming, motherfucker. He's going to be president for 8 years, and then while he's president, he's going to get rid of all the fucking immigrants and all these transgenders and all these fruitcakes and all these goddamn motherfucking niggas.
And that's all we need to hear from Rodney. Moving right along, Joe McClory, how do you feel about collateral damage done when punching up? For example, the joke at the end of Colbert's rant against Donald Trump, or memes of Putin as a gay clown, where clearly the targets are Trump and Putin, and the joke is that they would hate to be seen as homosexual, so it's funny to imply that they are. Still, I cannot help but think that such jokes are tinged with a bit of the classic gay people are gross sort of humor that is thankfully becoming less acceptable. As a creator of content, particularly comedy content, how much thought do you put into how much damage your jokes may do to people besides the targets of your jokes? And how do you feel when you hear jokes from others look like they may have splash damage onto people other than their targets? I make an effort to avoid that. For instance, if I'm writing a joke in a 5 Things video, or I'm writing a Steve and Stuffy video that makes reference to something like that, I try to be as sensitive and as thoughtful as I possibly can to avoid that sort of collateral damage. And honestly, it's not that difficult. All it really takes is recognizing that there may be a potential problem and then being creative enough to come up with another line, to come up with another joke. It's not actually that difficult at all. It's analogous to making an effort to not be as ableist in your speech. You know, when I changed the name of 5 Things to its current name from the previous name because I wanted to eliminate an ableist word from the title, it wound up being a lot easier than I thought it would be to start phasing these words out of my vocabulary. Because as it turns out, I'm more articulate than that. I don't need to rely on these ableist words to get my point across. I can still be very cutting and very biting and very harsh when need be, but I don't need to rely on ableist language. And it's the same thing on a more broader scale, in a broader sense, I should say. Speaking of how articulate I am, in a broader sense, when it comes to writing any kind of humor, you can focus your humor on your intended target. And if you're just a little careful and have a little bit of focus and have a little bit of consideration for things like collateral damage or splash damage, as you also call it, it's actually not that hard. So I do kind of tend to look down on people who consistently do that. Every once in a while, you know, everybody makes mistakes, everybody misses something, everybody gets a little too in the moment and they might shout something or say something that they didn't mean to say, or miss something that they shouldn't have missed. That just happens, you know. Sometimes people speak out of turn and they say things that they shouldn't say. But people who do it a lot, when it would be very easy for them to avoid it without losing any of their edge, or any of their intent, or any of the impact of their joke, that bothers me, because all it takes is an awareness and a willingness to be just a little more creative. Although I have to say, I mean, now that I've made that statement, I personally have not been all that creative when it comes to segues at this point in the video. I mean, I'm still just kind of stuck going, hey, that was the last question for that bit, and now it's time for the next bit of the video, which is a little something I like to call
the lightning round.
Kevin Logan, so America, what does it feel like to be a banana republic? You know, it doesn't feel great, to be honest. Hopefully it won't last for very much longer. I mean, it's bad enough to be a banana republic just under any circumstances, but it's especially hard on me because I hate fucking bananas. I just can't stand them. Never liked bananas, ever. So it's especially hard on me. So please feel especially sympathetic to me, won't you? Ahoy Erno, if Spencer quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, is he a Nazi? No, if he quacks like a Nazi and walks like a Nazi, he's a Nazi. And he does. And he is. Crowbro, hey Steve, I think it's fair to say Vince McMahon is an awful person in real life, but can it also be said Mr. McMahon is one of the best TV villains of all time? I think that might be a reach. I don't know if I would say he's one of the best TV villains of all time. That's a very august list, at least in my mind. But if we limit it to pro wrestling, he's absolutely one of the best heels ever in pro wrestling, and certainly of the last 25, 30 years. Yeah, I would say Mr. McMahon is very high on that list without hesitation. But all time, like TV villains, I don't know. I don't think he's ranked very high on that. Francois Lacombe, hey Steve, how come Trump is still alive and Pence hasn't taken his place by now? What are the Republicans waiting for to implement their plan? Because that had to be the plan, right? No way they ever intended to let Trump remain in the White House after he delivered it to them, right? Dispose of the Trump clown after he's sworn in and put a proper Republican guy in his place, right? So what's the delay? I think we need to come to terms with the fact that this was the plan to the extent that there was a plan. Because they have, right now they have at their fingertips the means to get rid of Trump in a matter of weeks, and they're just not doing anything about it. And they can do it nice and legal, and they're not doing anything about it. So I think we have to accept the fact that this was the plan, if there even was a plan, which with Republicans you'd think there was. So I think this was it. Matt Machado, hi Steve, the day before yesterday I went to take my dog Misty out for her morning walk. When she woke up, she could not stand, and when she finally did, she stumbled around my apartment like a drunk. I took her to the vet, and they told me she had vestibular syndrome, or old dog disease, or canine vertigo. They don't know the cause, but usually dogs recover on their own. Misty seems to be doing fine, though the vet said no long walks, which she hates. Can you wish her a quick get well? Oh, absolutely, Matt, absolutely. Misty, darling, please get well soon and best wishes. God, it breaks my heart to think of when anybody tells me like sad stories about their dogs not feeling well, their pets not feeling well. Misty, get well soon, darling, please. Next. Enough gushing over the dog, Jesus. Adam Rainstopper, okay, Steve, I was recently told that in addition to not having ad block, letting the ads play to the end when you have the option to skip actually increases the revenue for the uploader. So here's the deal. I will watch your ads all the way through, with one exception, and that is when the ad is a fucking PragerU video. Those I will skip, and I think it's fair to do so. Fair enough? Oh, yes, absolutely, Adam. You are going above and beyond, my friend. Above and beyond. I make no demands, and I have no specific expectations for anybody who watches my videos to watch the ads or not watch the ads or whatever. People who do that or who contribute to my Patreon, I consider to be people going above and beyond, and I thank you for all of the extra support you give me. So absolutely, it is definitely a deal. I wouldn't watch PragerU ads either. Salganos, you don't like yogurt? Do you like sour cream? What about extra rich sour cream? Cream cheese? Finnish Vili? I have never had Finnish Vili. In fact, I had never heard of it before your question. I had to look it up. It seems very yogurty, so I don't think I would like it. But yes, I love sour cream and I love cream cheese very much. Marius Butrikovsky, are you afraid what's going to happen after Trump finally gets impeached and people will normalize Pence because he's not outrageously incompetent, just plain and quietly ultra-conservative and hateful? I'm not looking forward to it. I mean, it's probably too much to, given how it's pulling teeth to get Trump out of there, even though he is obviously corrupt and a fucking criminal and a liar. It's painful enough to get him out of there, so I don't have much hope that once we get rid of him that they're going to do the same thing to Pence and get him out of there as well, even though you have to think Pence is complicit in at least some of what Trump is no doubt guilty of. So yeah, I don't look forward to it, but it's sort of it's the bed that we have made. Our fellow Americans, we have all made this shitty bed and we all have to sit in it for at least another few years. That's just the situation that we find ourselves in, and it's our own fault. And the shitty thing is that many of us will have to suffer for it because of the short-sightedness and ignorance of so many of our fellow Americans. But yes, I'm not looking forward to President Pence. I'm looking forward to not having President Trump, but I am not looking forward to President Pence. And it's, as you can imagine, there's a lot of tension there. Igbon5, does Trump even have a significant understanding of these things? I would be surprised if he had anything more than a superficial Christians good because baby Jesus understanding, which makes him easily led by those with a significant backwards religious agenda. I don't think Trump has a significant understanding of anything. I think Trump thinks that he has a very significant understanding of everything he chooses to express an opinion on. And that's what makes him so dangerous. It's not just that he, as you say, he is easily led by people with agendas. You're absolutely right. But he is also, he is completely convinced of his own expertise in just about anything that he sets his mind on. That's what makes him so dangerous. He's a dipshit who is convinced that he's a genius. Comrade Lonerski, thoughts on the USSR and Stalin? Not a huge fan of either one. Thanks for asking. That's the last question. That's it, everybody. It's time now for the shout out. And the shout out this week is a bit of a return to the way I used to do the shout outs back in the golden age before Donald Trump was the president of the United States. It's a shout out, not to a fellow YouTuber this time, but to a podcast, a wonderful podcast that I was actually honored to be a guest on recently. The podcast is the Inciting Incident Podcast, and it is hosted by the wonderful Marissa McCool. And according to the About section of the Facebook page for the Inciting Incident Podcast, it's, quote, the SJW podcast YouTube Atheism warned you about. Intellectual but accessible, skeptical but personal, and calm and collected unless you really piss us off. It's an awesome show. My episode is the next episode to be publicly released. I do believe it may even be up today as you watch this video. So go check out my episode and listen to some past episodes as well, because as I say, it's an awesome show and Marissa is an awesome host. It was my honor and pleasure to spend some time with her and actually be her guest in studio to record my episode. It was just an incredible amount of fun. And you can go find the link to the show's Facebook page in the description of this video. That's the link that I'm sharing with you, because you can get the episodes there. And you can also find out information about their upcoming live 100th episode special, which is being performed in Carlisle, Pennsylvania in July, on July 14th, I believe. Friday, July 14th will be the live 100th episode of the Inciting Incidents podcast. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of awesome guests there. I'm going to be there in attendance. I'm not going to actually be on the show, but I'll be there in the theater watching with everybody else. It sounds like it's going to be an awesome show. You can find out information about that and information about the show in general by going to their Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Inciting Incident Podcast, and it's linked in the description bar below. So check out the Inciting Incident Podcast. Awesome show, awesome people. I also want to remind you of another awesome podcast, actually a whole series of awesome podcasts. These are the Lemme Listen podcasts. They are the creation of my very good friend Jason Harding, aka Jason with a D, the puppet master of Opinionville, as I like to call him. There's a whole slew of excellent Lemme Listen podcasts, including Lemme Finish, American Monsters, Filmtastic Voyage, Cinetific, 3 for Adventure, and my personal favorite, last but not least, Late Seating, the belated movie review podcast co-hosted by Jason and me, where we take a fresh look at a film with a reputation of being either great or terrible. We summarize the plot, we make jokes, we crack each other up, and hopefully crack you up as well. And we decide whether the movie deserves whatever reputation it has, whether that reputation is as a classic or as a notorious bomb. You can listen to our most recent episode, which is about the wonderful classic film noir directed by Carol Reed, starring Joseph Cotton and Orson Welles, The Third Man. And you can also do a little bit of homework if you are enough of a masochist and watch the movie that will be the subject of our next episode, which is, this was Jason's idea, Showgirls. Next episode of Late Seating is going to be about Showgirls, so if you want to get all the jokes and know what we're talking about and know why we are in such obvious pain, find a copy of Showgirls and watch it if you are that much of a glutton for punishment. And you can listen to all of the episodes of Late Seating and all of the episodes of all of the excellent Lemme Listen podcasts by going to lemmelistenpodcast.com. There you go, folks. That's it for another week. Thank you as always for watching. If you have a question for this series, please leave a comment on this video. If you have a comment you want me to answer next time, leave it as a... If you have a question, let's try that again. If you have a question you want me to answer next time, then please leave a comment on this video, and I will answer as many of your questions as I possibly can in the next episode of this series. So please do comment. In order for me to do this, you have to ask. Leave your comment below in the comment section of this video for next time. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you next time. Until then, take care, everybody. Hey folks, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And also please consider helping me to make more videos like this by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron of this channel. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.